Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Long time no see it seems, but you know me. My name's Andrew, also GingerHacker. So excited to bring us into another amazing episode of Breaking into Cyber. Been on slight hiatus as I was out of the country the last few weeks, but so excited to bring an amazing guest to the channel to have some amazing banter, share some cool stories, and to share probably, I think that's going to be a fantastic Breaking into Cyber series story so far for 2026. So, everyone, I would like to introduce you to Rob, the bow tie security guy. And Rob, I'm going to pass it to you for a quick introduction.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name's Rob Wetstein. I've been in technology for about 20 to 30 years. I've done everything from incident response to cyber intelligence, anti phishing, social engineering, hacking, pen testing, all of the above. I'm just kind of an overall tech nerd. And I'm coming live from my workshop where I build kind of replica movie props and other nerd stuff in my free time.
And Rob, you and I have now known each other for just under a year, probably now. And I
Yeah.
mean, I know some of the cool things you make. So rather than starting with our first question, I would like to ask you what has been probably the coolest movie prop or kind of gadget maybe this last year you've actually gotten to work on?
Yeah, so I will tell you my favorite of all time. So I'm a huge fan of the Goonies movie, and I got to actually make a prop for Data's exhibit in the Goonies Museum in Astoria, Oregon. So I got to make the radio that Data plays the 007 soundtrack as he swings down. That was a huge influence to me. So it was just a really big win. I can show you like quickly around the shop. You've got my wall of different random things. I've got different pistols and things from other areas. I've got Dobby and stuff back here, and some stuff from Fallout. It's all about just kind of keeping things interesting, and really, I build to just kind of help learn new stuff, right? And that's my biggest problem is I love building and creating things, but I also hate doing the same thing over and over again. So I tend to build it once and then be like, all right, what's next?
Well, fantastic, Robert. But let's now bring this. I went off canter because that's probably should have been one of the last questions I asked you. But I do see the Sally in the background as well, and that may obviously Nightmare Before Christmas, one of my favorite movies. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll hit you with our first question we normally ask everybody, and that's how you broke into cyber. Now, many a times this starts with a journey of long ago, back into first grade, second grade, third grade eras where we're talking about career days and you're getting to write out your what do you want to be when you grow up kind of ideas. And we say doctors and lawyers and astronauts and
Yeah.
basketball veterinarians. But obviously, we got into cybersecurity and we're pretty darn good at it. So, do you mind kind of taking us through the journey of kind of what led you into cybersecurity?
Yeah, for me, I've always been a tinkerer. I've always been somebody who wanted to figure out how things worked. So when I was younger, I was a poor kid. I didn't have much money, so I would jump into trash cans behind Best Buy and go around on trash day to find old computers and things that people would throw out, and I'd learn how to repair them. I did that for a long time, and then I started to hear about this kind of hacking thing that was happening in the 90s. I got to hang with some of the people who were doing some of those nefarious activities, like war driving and other things like that. And I became obsessed with technology really, really early on. In my 20s, I started my own business because I had moved out at 18 and kind of lived in the woods for a little bit and then just wanted to find my own way and ended up starting a business for a little bit. Then that kind of tanked and I had to get a real job. And I ended up working for Disney for almost 20 years. I started at the level one help desk and I worked myself all the way up to manager of security engineering, which was just kind of a really cool thing. Got to help build out the DevSecOps program, and now I'm a cybersecurity executive at a Fortune 500, which is just kind of wild. But it took me probably a good 10 years to kind of break into cyber. It was more of people just kept telling me, stay in your lane, stay in your lane. when I was an IT guy, going, "Hey, why don't we do this? Hey, why is this unsecure?" And finally, I got to a point where I had an opportunity to interview for the IoT mobile security role, the first one that Disney was ever hiring for, that had an IoT specialization. And I didn't even know what IoT meant, but I got really obsessed and I dove into it. I hit it super hard. And the manager later told me the reason I got the job over other people who were way more experienced is how I answered one question, which is when she asked me why I wanted this job. I told her that I've become obsessed with it. I can't stop researching. I started like nerding out on a story that I read that day. And she said my passion and my excitement for IoT is what drove me to kind of becoming the first hire at Disney for that role.
I think you and I having similar backgrounds of how we provide mentorship.
Yeah.
It's having that want and that question mindset of why something's going on or puzzle kind of complex of always being curious and always learning that I can teach certain concepts of cybersecurity to individuals that have the want and willingness to learn, but there's some pieces of cybersecurity that you can't teach, like communication skills, teamwork, collaboration sets. But I mean, like a technical piece of it, like if you have the mindset and the ability to learn, like we can probably both with high confidence train someone from street to seat to like do security work. Not sure. I mean, obviously, I know House of Mouse has lots of rules and stuff, but was there any maybe particular really fun, exciting part you got to do or really enjoyed working with
Yeah.
the Disney cybersecurity team that you're willing to share or able to talk about?
Yeah. I love security, right? It's like, oh, what's cool? What can I actually discuss? I helped work with the Magic Band team and help secure the Magic Band technology. So whenever you go to the
Oh,
parks
cool.
and you're doing the tap to pay stuff or you're doing the ride stuff, I got to do a ton of ride testing. One of my favorite stories is we started off at early morning with probably about 18 of us, and we were testing the ride to get the reads down to like a few milliseconds to get your picture captured at that right moment while you're on Rock and Roller Coaster. Um, and we were getting on the ride. I had magic bands all up and down my arms. I had like 4 or 5 of them on each arm. We were there before the park opened, but we ended up going a little longer. So by the time we've been doing this, we're probably about 10 rides in, and we just basically get off the ride, get right back on the ride, get off the ride, get right back on the ride to get read data. And the line had started to form. So like people are really starting to mean mug us pretty hard. They're like, "Why? Who are these people? Like, what are these people doing?" Like, one guy's yelling at us, like, "What are you doing?" Like, because they keep watching us ride, and I'm like, "We're doing ride testing and we're testing the Magic Band stuff," and he's like, "That must be a hard job." Um, but we're at this point, we're down to like maybe 3 or 4 of us because everyone else is so sick. Like you
Oh
can't ride a
man.
roller coaster over and over again. Um, your body starts to do weird things. So the record for that ride, from what we've been told, is 14 or 15 times in a row that was done by an Imagineer when they were actually syncing the music to the ride.
Wow.
And we're
Oh,
like,
that's so
that's
cool.
we're like, that's super easy to beat. So we're at like maybe our 11th or 12th ride, and I actually try to board the ride with guests already on it because I am so like the constant G forces that we kept experiencing. I just wasn't fully with it. And the lady comes and she puts a hand on my shoulder. She goes, "Are you okay, honey?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry." I get back in line. We rode it 13 more times and then we stopped. We were like, "We're
Oh
not
my
going to beat the
gosh.
record," because all of us were just we just felt like not right. But that was one of the most fun times. And my second favorite time is going into the haunted mansion and doing the backstage tour, getting to go into the actual ballroom and sit at the piano. Each of the keys is actually signed by an Imagineer. Like
Oh
people just
wow.
never get to know this. And underneath the plate in the haunted mansion dining room, there's a photo of a couple, and the photo is from somebody who came to the park every single year. And um when they both passed away, the family wrote to Walt and basically said, "Hey, we would love to, this was their favorite ride. They came every single year. We would love for them to be incorporated. So their photo is underneath the plate in the Haunted Mansion,
That's
in
so
the
cool.
ballroom. Yeah, and we got to experience this history. No one is really allowed in that room anymore. They don't allow that tour to happen in the ballroom. But I got to become one of the ghosts in the Haunted Mansion by using the Pepper's Ghost effect. So for
What?
somebody who's like a huge Haunted Mansion fan, like with my Haunted Mansion tattoo, it was an absolute dream.
Oh my gosh, man. We might have to have like a whole separate video when it comes into like fun, cool cyber Disney facts that you can talk about. But
Oh
we
man,
will
I've got stories for days.
yeah, we will skip past that because I will get fixated on asking you Disney because we are a Disney family here in Arizona.
Yeah,
We
man.
being so close to California, we obviously go at least once a year if we can. So, but that's so fantastic. Well, leading that into actually probably my third question, or yeah, technically third question, is the chicken before the egg question. So we've talked about this as well. So the certifications, experience, and education. So
Yeah.
where do you rank the three and why?
So if you're trying to get into cyber, I personally feel that none of them really give you a true competitive edge. It's right now the cyber market is so flush with talent, and there's so many jobs, and there's so many more people. So like for every 100 jobs that are actually open, there's probably 5,000 people who are applying for them. Um, you really have to know people to get an opportunity. A perfect example is I have a high school education. I grew up very poor. I couldn't afford college, and I wasn't going to go in debt the rest of my life. The option was go to college or feed myself. And to me, it wasn't really an option. Um, I don't necessarily devalue them because I think there is value in an education, but I think if you're doing it specifically because you think it's going to give you some sort of competitive edge, I don't really see that. And I personally, and many people who are in my age bracket, that like 35 to 45, like cyber degrees didn't exist. Like they're very new.
Yeah.
So we don't really look at them in any sort of serious way. We look at SAN certs really serious. You spend a whole ton of money, you got a lot of knowledge under your belt. We look at things like your ethical hacker certs. That those are solid ones that we might look at for like my pen testers when I'm hiring pen testers. For the most part, though, I really look for team fit, and I think a lot of leaders do. I just did my podcast before this a couple hours ago, and I had a VP on from another company, and we both discussed kind of like, hey, we would hire somebody with less technical skills who had better soft skills any
Yeah.
day of the week,
Yep. And that goes into I think that concept where it's like the technical skills can be taught. And it's
all day.
I tell people the same thing. Like and most everyone I talk on the channel, education is important as it is,
Mhm.
usually is either third or completely off the table of really a necessity of breaking into cyber. Because I think we've hit the nail on the head where it's like, look, like I can't teach someone to be on to work on time. I can't teach someone to communicate things that they're seeing within an environment that may or may not be malicious. They need further assistance on. I can't teach hard work. I can't teach good, strong work ethic. That comes with the person that you're finding that's going to fit into your team
Yeah.
well. And I explain to people with a lot of the mentoring that I do is, yeah, those that are trying to break in, like find your local community, find your DEF CON communities, find your local meetups. If you're still in school, if you have like a cyber club, if you don't have one, make one and kind of find Discord communities, the YouTube channels, all that kind of fun stuff. Not
It
sure. Yeah, go
And
ahead.
volunteer, right? Volunteer your
Yes.
time. Don't go as a guest. Go as a person supporting and helping. I can tell you any of my mentees who've taken that advice have found opportunities because they go, man, if this person's willing to give their time and give back, you also get more time with the people who are doing it and spending the time, like handing out badges and stuff. It's the way you're going to get a job. It's entry level roles don't go to a nobody, they go to a known, not an unknown.
Yeah, and we just talked a few days ago too when it comes into like what that can kind of also look like when it comes into and probably why there's also such a hard aspect when it comes into those mid-career positions that folks are applying for, because the
Yeah.
entry level positions, if it's an entry level and there's no one on the team that's moving up from that even like beginner level, those can be found off the street. You can pick up a new college grad, someone that's pivoting off a new cyber job or trying to get into the
Yep.
field. You then look at those mid-career positions or those senior positions, and now you're not only competing with one, the saturated, amazing market of folks that Microsoft has layoffs, FANG companies have layoffs, and you have these rock star heroes applying for these mid senior like lead positions. But then
Yep.
you have your internal team and you have folks that
Mhm.
have been with the organization or that company or that contract you've been on for X amount of years. And how does that look when it comes into hiring outside that organization or compared to hiring within your team and doing it internally?
It's so critically important to have relationships. One, because it's gonna be like I opened a truly entry level role with no experience. I didn't post it anywhere because I knew already 10 or 15 people between myself, people I mentor, between my manager, and between referrals on the team. We had interviewed enough. We had 700 applications in the first 24 to 48 hours.
Yeah.
Um, for an internship at like a major startup, I won't give names because they asked me not to, but they did give me the numbers. Uh, 2,700 applications in the first 48 hours and
Wow.
3,900 applications in the first 72. Right. So they're going to interview maybe 10 or 15 people. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to break into cyber, it's not you. Like, it's a law of averages, and the percentage is so minuscule, it's very difficult, and if you're looking for, like, a full remote role, or if you don't have total flexibility, don't even try,
Yeah.
because you've gotta be willing to move, you've gotta be willing to work obscenely terrible hours, you've gotta really change your lifestyle to be able to get it. Like, if somebody joined your team today, Andrew, are they working the 9 to 5 shift?
No, they're not.
No.
Likely going to third shift, so which is our
Yep.
like 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. overnight.
Yep.
So
You do your time, right? All of us who've kind of been in the trenches and have done the work, have done those shifts. I've done the late night, overnight shifts. I've done the gold level support, all the different things. I worked from the level 1 help desk all the way through all of the different roles that I've had, because I just never quit. Every time someone told me no, I just said, hold my root beer, and I'm gonna challenge you and do it better."
awesome, Rob. Well, my next question for you, actually, and this is a great one for the years of experience you have when it comes into hiring across many of the different levels within cybersecurity, everything from your entry level to probably your C suite and your position. When you're looking for, and we'll say a mid career level, maybe position, is there anything in particular that makes a resume stand out or pop more that you look for?
No. Resumes are so cookie cutter, and many of them are built by AIs now. They almost all look the exact same. Um, so I tend to really only go by referrals, or I make a post and see who's interested and who reaches out and puts in the extra effort. Um, very, very rarely does a resume like stand out where I'm like, man, this person's amazing. And it's not that the resumes aren't good, it's that I don't bother really looking at them anymore because I've been lied to so many times. The resume is no longer a filter, and it can't be because people are utilizing AI tooling to write the perfect resume, and then when they get me on the call, a perfect example, senior level role, exactly what you're talking about, I hired for last year. I had interviewed 15 people, 9 of them had absolutely none of the demonstrable skills their resume said. None of them. It was one of the things that they did all the different stuff. They said they knew what they were doing, and then when I actually questioned them, they had no idea or concept of what they were doing. And that unfortunately is the reality for a lot of these jobs is people will just make things up, and they'll just kind of tell you what you want to hear to get the interview. And I read those people the riot act. I go, look, you took this opportunity from someone with the actual skills to do the job, and that kills me because I'm not going to
Yeah.
go back and interview another 10 people. I've already wasted, 5 to 10 hours interviewing people without the skill set.
Is there so I guess would you say that the resume could be a filter, but then when it comes into when you actually get to that role, is it ideally just having them like kind of like break down, kind of like, hey, look, these were the things I asked for. Can you just walk through kind of those examples? Like, is there any specific question you repetitively ask that
Yeah.
maybe it's not technical, but it's a
All
question that
al
you always ask? It's like that's like a
yeah,
part of your really big deciding factor.
almost none of the questions I ask are highly technical. I just wanna know how you think. Many leaders, and the actual percentage based on a lot of studies is around 80% of leaders don't know how to interview. Um, I've studied interviewing. I know the right questions to ask, and I know how to figure out the things that I need from you as far as like how you think, how you operate, how you deal with pressure, how you deal with feedback. Because I tell people on the call why they're not moving forward and why they didn't get the job, and I tell them live. Like they don't have to wait for feedback. They know exactly where they stand by the time they hang up a call with me. And a lot of people are like, well, that's really, how do you deal with that? People are going to sue you. I've been doing it for 20 years. I've never been sued, right? Most people are so incredibly thankful to get feedback, like real feedback,
Yeah.
that they don't do it. I've even had people challenge me, and then I moved them to the next round because I thought the way they handled the feedback was exceptional. So really, it comes down to a few key questions for me. I ask, can you, and this, there's a variation of this, but I'll give you one of the variations. Do you know what a firewall is? And they'll say, yeah, of course I do. And I'll say, awesome. Explain it to me as if I'm a 3-year-old. And they'll be like, well, the ingress and egress. I'm like, I don't know what that is. Oh, well, you open a proxy to I don't know what that is. Oh, you open a port. I don't know what that is. Right. A lot of technical people have a really hard time explaining things simply. And to me, that is a very big deal breaker, because if you can't explain a concept that's really highly technical in an easy to understand way, you're going to have a really hard problem dealing with customers, because you're going to make them feel stupid almost immediately when they engage with you. The other big question I ask is my zombie apocalypse question. And this was a really weird question to ask during COVID, so I switched it up a little bit. Because I used to say, you wake up in the morning, and there's a pandemic or some sort of thing that's happening. Instead of people getting sick, they're getting violent and they're attacking anyone on the street. What do you do? So, like, your pen tester might check their perimeter. They might secure the area first. Your security researcher, or maybe your incident responder, is going to reach out to their friends, their family members, make sure they're aware of the news. Then they're going to protect their perimeter. Your SOC analyst is going to get more information. They're going to start digging for more information. They're going to start looking to see what information they can find out before they take action. So no matter what the role is, I'm able to kind of get a vibe on how you feel and things like that. But the big deciding factor for me is the session after my session, which is meeting with the team and just shooting the S with the team. If you don't pass the team vibe check, and I know this is terrible because I have autism and ADHD, I know how difficult it is to be social with people you don't know, but it is so critical to have soft skills and to work on soft skills, because many of the job interviews come down to, can I chill with this person?
Yeah.
Because everyone's on equal footing in many cases, especially with a market that's overly saturated with talent. Um, we had a situation recently where we were hiring a senior web, or a senior cloud engineer, and 10 out of the 20 something people we met with were using AI on the call. Like, and
Yeah.
I've busted multiple people using AI, and it's like, man, I ask you questions that I know what the prompt is going to tell you. Because I've already typed it in. So just just be honest. The other big thing that's a big red flag for me, which pretty much guarantees you're not getting the job, is trying to fake it till you make it. If you don't know something, just say you don't know. I don't expect you to know everything. I'm okay if I ask you how many IP addresses are in a /16 and you're like, I don't know. Cool. How would you find that answer? I'd probably Google it. Cool, do that. And I have very open dialogue with people because I'm not going to say like you can't research while we're on the call because I want to know how you research. What do you do? How do you do things? All of those things are critical because, like you said, I can teach technical, but I can't teach you to not have an ego, not be somebody that, and to be somebody that is fun to work with, and to have a good attitude. Those things are so incredibly important. And if I get a hint of ego, that's it. Like, it's great that you think you're super smart, but I have a lot of people who are still learning. I have people on the team who are way smarter than you, and you coming in thinking you're hot S is not going to go well.
Yeah. It's so funny because there's a lot of friends I talk to that like they will ask organizations even if they don't make it through, like, "Hey, can you provide any feedback?" And it stinks because some organizations just have policies where they won't, and I don't know the back end of why that is, which stinks. But
Yeah,
I mean, like,
most don't.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's fantastic that you do provide that because that's a
Mhm.
lot of times too when you're doing even mock interviews with friends. Um, it's good to know those things because maybe there's a certain thing that you're doing that's like, hey, you mentioned this, but you kind of said it wrong, and like that can kind of come off as maybe you're reaching. Or I have a good colleague of mine that he loves to use buzzwords. I'm like, dude, drop the buzzwords, dude. I'm like, it
If,
sounds too fluffy that you're trying to like just like
if you
say
drop
stuff.
synergy again, I'm gonna.
Yeah. So it's like, hey man, like just like talk plain talk, dude.
Yeah,
I use cop analogies very much when I talk about like security of like, hey, explain that. Like I've been asked, like, hey, how would you protect your environment or how would you protect the organization? And I use like security house perimeter like analogies. Like, hey,
yeah,
like
yeah,
maybe like putting up a screen door. That could be like your antivirus or getting a dog or having cameras. That's like your IDS intrusion detection because the camera's going to tell you. And it's
yeah,
like using those small things as acronyms, or people have used baseball before, or football too, or sports. There's a thousand different ways you can explain cybersecurity to those that are the non-technical piece that still
yeah.
makes sense though, right? And like I honestly have a lot of fun with it because
I
it's
do
also a
too,
group.
man. I love analogies, like when I'm trying to kind of explain something. So I described working at the SOC today on a call in a way that I thought was pretty clever. I said, "What if I told you to paint a wall?" And then every single day, I said to paint the wall the exact same way every single time. Uh, and then by the time you've done that around 200 times, I tell you to do it again. And you need to keep that same consistency, that same painting, that same due diligence to ensure that there's no streaks, to make sure that there's no runs. And you need to do it every single time the exact same way, no matter what. That's basically what a sock job is.
See, I've jokingly told some of my friends like it's kind of like, and I've used the aspect of one sock's just a sock to why you're in a sock is for compliant reasons.
Yeah.
We are simply an audit box check. But I've explained it where it's like you are a fly swatter at a cow manure plant. You were
Yeah.
there to swap away the flies, and every single day that is all you're doing. Now, so every
Yep.
now and then there's gonna be some big flies, and those big flies you
Rarely.
pass off to the next
Yeah.
team. But your job is just to swat flies, and that's casework. And it's just
Very,
it's such a
very,
silly
yeah. Very rarely. I think it was probably 8 or 9 months when I was in a SOC type role, before I got my first positive, and, I was literally the most excited human being on the planet. I was like, "Okay, I
I
I
get
need
to
somebody."
work this.
Yeah, I need someone else to look at this, and I need to make sure I'm not crazy, but I think I actually found something. But it's a really hard role, and a lot of cyber is
Yeah.
incredibly, incredibly repetitive.
Yep.
It doesn't really matter what the job is. A lot of it's very repetitive, and as much as the news and schools and a bunch of other places want to sell you on this exciting career, a lot of it's boring paperwork. A whole lot of it. Incident response is about 30 minutes of absolute excitement, and then like 70 hours of log data analysis and
Mhm.
writing down.
Yep.
Once you've contained the threat, it's all about how did they get in, and then it's all about documenting how they got in and making sure it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. Well, Rob, we are wrapping up toward our end, so I have 2 more questions for you. But
Sure, man.
as a huge thank you as always, we're gonna be also sending you some awesome Ginger Hacker swag.
Heck
And
yeah.
uh and obviously, I mean, we should have led with this. You also sit on the GingerHacker initiative panel as well.
I
But you're
do.
part of the community. Obviously, we're helping folks break into cybersecurity. Your insights as well with Bowtie Security Guy is very much opening the doors to those trying to break in, seeing what a job looks like in the first 24 hours. And a lot of your
Yeah.
other videos you've also done as well. So if you've not seen Bowtie Security Guy's channel, please make sure you make a visit that way and
Yeah.
check out the content because it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, and the podcast is just about like Bowtie Security Guy After Dark, all one word, Bowtie Security Guy, on any of your podcast services. Like it's all about just talking to professionals. I've had Andrew on there, and just chatting about their career and how they broke in. It's very similar to this format, but it's really focused on like what the job is really like, what are you sacrificing, what are you going to be giving up, because cyber doesn't come for free. It's not something that you're going to kind of get into and it's just going to be this amazing job where you're doing new fun stuff every day. It comes with a lot of repetitive tasks and a lot of blood sweat and tears, putting in the
Yes.
time.
Well, Rob, we asked this second to last question kind of already at the beginning, but I'll lead it back with you again. So, when you're not doing cybersecurity, what do you like to do for fun? What are you trying to do to
Yeah.
unplug, relax, and kind of break away from cybersecurity to kind of recharge?
I ironically, the prop making is a really big thing, but mentoring is my recharge. It has become something as somebody with ADHD. I get such a dopamine hit from mentoring and helping people. It's something I absolutely love. So if you're watching this and you're struggling to get into cyber, you're struggling to find a job, um, or you're trying to break into cyber, feel free to reach out. I don't charge anything for it. I'll make time for you. The more effort you put in, the more effort I'll put in.
Yep.
Um, and the reality is like it's going to take a while, right? It's going to take a few years. It's going to be a struggle and it's going to be a lot of work. So just be prepared for the marathon, not a race, right? And just do that. But yeah, for me it's all about kind of giving back and helping people. I also help small businesses. I work with a ton of different small companies, like companies hat makers that does a bunch of custom flat caps. This isn't one of their caps, but um anybody I can kind of help. I believe in doing good for the sake of doing good and just trying to help as many people as possible.
Well, awesome, Rob. And we do appreciate that. And for those that are looking for a mentor, we are soon, hopefully soon, going to be releasing some amazing news with GHI. We are working on the kinks for some cool other additional projects with mentoring coming out this next year. But
Yes,
yeah, we're very excited. Rob will likely be one of our mentors on there. So make sure you guys keep an eye out. But
for sure.
but Rob, the final question is what's the last piece of advice you give somebody trying to break into cybersecurity?
Embrace the uncomfortable. Like, if you are uncomfortable doing something, challenge yourself, do it anyways. I started as a guy who couldn't stand in front of a room of two people and talk. And a few weeks ago, I was on the stage at Zero Trust, on the main stage, and I was able to talk to a room of like, 1,000. It's unbelievable what you can accomplish if you believe in yourself and if you really kind of challenge what you feel is your comfort levels and go past that. So that's my life motto is embrace the uncomfortable and constantly try to strive for more than you think you're capable of because I promise you you can do more than you think you can.
Fantastic advice. Well, everybody, I really appreciate you guys' time as always. And if this was your first time on the channel checking out our Breaking into Cyber series, make sure you check out more. We have folks all across their walks of life, everyone from tier one analysts to CISOs, directors, Fortune 500 companies, all getting to share their story of how they broke into cyber to give some insight back to the channel. So, everyone, thank you so much. Drop a comment, drop a like. Make sure you check out Bowtie Security Guys podcast after dark, and make sure to stay tuned for the next video. Catch you on the next one.
Woohoo! Thank you.